Well, hey guys, now it is time for something huge. Now, on the engine here, bam, we have the stock Holley 2-barrel carburetor, and, well, I am just not a fan. The Holley carburetors had an issue in a four-wheel drive, and that was you get onto a side hill, the fuel runs to one side of the bowl, picks the float up, float shuts the fuel off, engine stops running because it has no fuel. And so four-wheel drive with Holley was never a lot of fun for anyone, and I know some of the Holley carb guys out there are going to get in the comments and, but you know what? And then I thought, okay, I could go get a new intake, I could put a quadrajet jet on it, because quadrajets jets are pretty good because the float bowl's in the center, but there's a problem with the carburetor. And the problem with the carburetor is that it constantly has the wrong fuel ratio depending on the conditions. You can get it tuned perfectly, and then the next day the atmospheric conditions can change a little bit, and the carburetor is no longer at peak efficiency. And so it's really hard to get one dialed in right. And what happens is that because you don't have consistency with it because of the constantly changing conditions, that means that your air-fuel ratio is constantly changing a little bit, and that means that from time to time you have a good deal of excess fuel in the cylinders, and that fuel acts as a solvent, and it washes the oil down off the cylinders. And so once that oil gets washed down off the cylinders, the piston comes by, there's no lubrication, so it scrapes on by. And it's just a little bit of a scrape at a time, a little bit of a scrape at a time. In time, though, it wears out the bores and wears out the engine. And so, you know, you used to see a car 80 to 100,000 miles, the car was done. Carbureted engine car with 80 to 100,000 miles, it was done. Now, with new systems, we have a solution for that, and that solution, bam! Edelbrock Pro Flo for EFI. Now, the reason this is good is because it gives you the accurate meaning, the accurate ratio. It has an app that you can run on your phone, and it comes with a little tablet, and you can use that to constantly monitor and tune your engine and make sure that everything's going okay, as well, because that thing is constantly adjusting, because it's what's called a closed-loop system, which means as you're driving, it continues to monitor and change the fuel ratio depending on what the engine needs to keep it at peak performance, to make sure there's no unburnt fuel. For one, you get better fuel mileage. That's a huge thing. The other thing is the engine lives a lot longer. Now, you guys have seen my 95 Chevy. That 95 Chevy has a 350 TBI in it. That TBI setup is really good, and those engines, I mean, some of those things are running around with like 400,000 miles on them, and they're still going now just because swapping fuel systems made the engines last that much longer. And that truck gets like 17 miles to the gallon. So what we're going with here is a little bit different system, though. That's a throttle body. This is going to be a multi-port sequential electronic fuel injection system. And so what that means is that for every cylinder on this engine, each cylinder has an injector that's down in the intake manifold, and it squirts that fuel directly into the engine, and that means that you get the proper air-fuel mixture ratio. It's being squirted directly in, and you don't have to worry about the surfacing of the inside of the intake and everything like that you used to have to do to make the fuel tumble and everything else to get the proper mixture and the proper mileage and all the little tricks that guys used to have to do. That no longer matters. It's squirt the fuel and go. And so I'm really excited. So let's get this thing broke out of the box.